What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 71 of Clips and Dip. We got the full crew here after the Clippers split the first two games of Round 1 against the Mavs in LA. I am Chuck Mockler with Adam Osden, Will Updyke. Thanks to everyone who hung out on the stream last night over on YouTube. Got to come hang after those. It was a good time. Adam wasn't there. He was silently protesting because of the loss. We're going to get into how Kawhi looked, the good and bad from games 1 and 2, and then what we need to see in game 3 to get a dub. And we have a classic Updyke Fun Check. But before we get into that, fellas, last night the Clippers lost. How are we feeling the day after? Adam, you had to take phone calls, and we didn't get your instant reaction on the live. How you doing, bud?
Kind of feel worse about it today, which is
no.
The Adam Fun Check is not good right now. I don't know. I've been listening to some podcasts, catching up, trying to think through everything that happened in that second half, the good, the bad, what's repeatable, what isn't. And I don't know. I'm a little bit more concerned because the common theme coming out of this game is, well, the Clippers only lost by 3 in a game they shot that poorly. And I'm thinking to myself, you guys know that Luka Doncic invincible game hasn't happened yet at all. He didn't shoot well. The Mavs didn't shoot well outside the fourth quarter when they went 6 of 9 from 3. Like, that was the only difference. Luka was 11 of 26. Like, I don't think they've played great yet either.
So you're not feeling good.
Sorry.
is what we're getting. Will, how are you? Are you in the Adam camp? Are you singing Adam's song, if you will? A little better.
I mean, I traced the cord back to the wall. No wonder. Anyways, I'm doing all right. I am not as concerned. I mean, maybe foolishly so, as some other people online seem to be about this loss. Losing home court is a bummer. I mean, that's assuming though that we don't get one in Dallas, which I think assuming that Kawhi, which is a big assumption, assuming that Kawhi is good to go, I don't see us dropping them both in Dallas. So I'm not. My DEFCON level is at a 5, or
that's like the chillest level.
Yeah, I'm
my DEFCON level. Get on my DEFCON.
I'm not too concerned right now. Like, obviously, still a very formidable team, still a tough series, still a lot left to go. But I don't really feel. I mean, going up 2-0, I'd be completely in a different position than from where I'm at right now. But 1-1 split. This doesn't really marginally change how I feel about the series.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a battle. We knew it was probably going to go. We feel that it's going to go 6 or 7. The big thing, I think, Adam, we haven't all talked about this as a group. How'd you feel about Kawhi in game 2? He obviously wasn't going to be 100%. We talked kind of pregame all together, how it might make things a little wonky, but going forward, from what we saw, how do you feel heading into game 3? And do you think he plays game 3?
Well, it depends on how his body responds coming out of this game, of course. I hope so. Obviously, we haven't seen the injury report yet for today, or are we not getting one till tomorrow because there's 2 days off?
I don't think we're getting one today.
Yeah.
He got on the plane.
I was encouraged by him playing 35 minutes. I did not see that coming. I thought it was going to be a 30-minutes restriction, maybe because the game, and it was kind of just a check-in process with Kawhi and how he was feeling during the ball game. So it was fluid, but I thought movement-wise looked pretty good. Now, he was short on almost all of his jumpers. They were flat. That was, I guess, if anything was to be expected, it was that 0-5 from the outside. But he had that steal and dunk to start the third quarter. He had a couple of push shots where he got physical in the lane. He had a putback, and his defense was really good overall. There wasn't much drop-off on that end, really, that was noticeable to me at least. The only thing was he missed a free throw late, unlike Kawhi.
Right.
And he had a shot clock violation on him, which was very out of character. So timing, rhythm, still needs to get there. He's got to knock off the rust. But I heard some people talking about this almost like, oh, they shouldn't have played Kawhi. It's like, you guys realize either he gets back into being Kawhi or they don't have a chance anyways. He
Right.
has to go through this right now. That's just part of the deal. He's got to get back to where he was. The only way to replicate those on-court minutes is for him to be out there. And by the way, that was the most physical game I've ever seen live. That was played and officiated by like it was a game 7. Carlo Jimenez brought that up. I'd never seen anything like it. What Darvin Ham was talking about coming out of that game 2 against the Denver Nuggets and how it's difficult to adjust to the officiating right now after an entire season for the most part of seeing things called one way. And it did start to change a couple of months ago, according to Zach Lowe. Points were down by like 2 points per game around the All-Star break. And there was some unspoken message, or maybe there was a memo that was sent,
wasn't
but
unspoken.
Nothing was official.
The league did release they did release an entire thing, and there was a Zoom conference. It's just you're really in the weeds about NBA officiating for you to have read it or have like known really have known
did it
too
still
much about
seem subjective, or they weren't fully stamping, hey, this is how we're calling things now? Because some people pointed out that right away, well, that would affect betting lines. Like, you have to make it very clear how the game is being officiated if there's a change mid-season, not in the offseason, mid-season, to how you're calling things. It was just very interesting, and I'm fine with it. The Clippers did not lose that game because of it.
Totally.
But it has changed so much. You look at those 2 fouls that Ivica Zubac had to start, by the way. He rocked Luka Doncic, and I think it was Derek Jones Jr. to pick up those first 2. I thought one of them might have ended up being a flagrant. They were so physical. But there were some wild no calls with Amir Coffey and Luka Doncic in the second half near the sideline. Terrence Mann, when the game really told me that it was going to be played differently than what we saw in game 1, was Terrence Mann went to the basket very early on, and he got hit, and we saw that in game 1 too. But Dallas was waiting, and they were saying no easy buckets. They met the moment. Their physicality was completely different. Everything Jason Kidd asked for.
5 blocks in that first half, didn't it? Wasn't it something like that?
Something crazy. He had a forwards hat on during the press conference. Ooh. He had backwards hat game 1, and they lost.
Did he have clear glasses game 1? Did he have clear frame glasses game 1?
Of course. He makes bad decisions, so
no lenses.
Just some freak shit.
To be fair, though, his guys responded to what he asked for, and he pulled Gafford quickly. He did start, but then he pulled him, and Derek Lively started the second half. So we're starting to see some of the chess moves from Jason Kidd's side. But again, it wasn't just the Clippers struggling from the field. Dallas's numbers look much better because of what happened in the fourth quarter with going 6 of 9 from 3. But they have not shot the ball well either. So I don't think it's just safe to say, well, if the Clippers aren't going to shoot like this again, and it was this close, and Kawhi Leonard didn't look like himself, 7 of 17. No, I think the Dallas Mavericks believe that we also can play much better and progress to our means too.
Yeah, there was some, like, the good and bad from game 1 and 2 is so crazy. Like in game 2, I saw this tweeted out. The Clippers had a better free throw rate, a better offensive rebounding rate, better turnover rate, shot better at the rim, more points in the paint, more fast break points, and more second chance points. There was some good, but I like what you said. Like, this is an ebb and flow series. I thought some of the bad, we talk about the shooting, that 14-0 run for the Mavs in the fourth was just like the offense was stagnant. It wasn't like
and that was during the power. Like that was started. That was started during the Power Rangers lineup. Like these are the things that I feel like are a little bit of anomalies. Norm, who I picked to be my player of the game, looking like shit so far this series. I don't expect that to maintain, especially because he like missing a wide open corner, like a wide open corner 3. That's just very unnorm.
He's got to be on a short leash, I think, at this point, guys. Because
I'd agree 100%.
Game 3 is a huge swing game. You got to get home court back. And Terrence Mann, did he play at all in the fourth quarter? See how, like, he
check.
played
I
at
got
the
it up right
very
now.
end, I think?
So they played in the
did.
fourth quarter. They played
And
that
I kind of
lineup.
liked that lineup.
I loved that lineup. It was, I think I put it in here. It was
At the
Harden,
very end?
Norm, Terrence, PG, and Kawhi.
When
Which I
he
know
went for
Norm
the
was out
steal on
there.
the crazy Luka pass out of that trap in the corner
Yeah, which
to get the ball out. Terrence Mann was on the floor for that.
yeah,
But he
Terrence
didn't
played
play
27 seconds.
right. So he played at the very end. He
Yeah.
wasn't in the consequential minutes.
Correct.
Amir Coffey wasn't either.
Minute 43.
If
for
Norman
Amir.
Powell is going to continue to struggle, you do have other options.
Mhm.
And it's not like he gives you much else outside of his shooting, which has been critical all season long. And Norm, being this ice cold, does throw a lot of things off. It does really hurt the machine with this Clippers offense.
He has one job, which is
I think
make shots.
I think Amir should have came into the game earlier in this one. Russ he turned it around the second half. He had a shit first half, and Norm wasn't good either. And I think that Amir should have came into the game earlier.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it more coming up in the high five or the low five. But there were some interesting moves by Coach Lue late in the ball game.
I want to talk about that. But a lot of people in the chat asking, was this a bad Ty Lue game? Very level-headed for the most part question. I chalked it up to kind of a bad Ty Lue game, partially due to the fact that he was crunched with, the Kawhi restriction, and then the 2 early fouls on Zoo make things wonky. But it wasn't the best.
It's not a coach's fault. It's not a coach's fault when guys don't execute. I'm really sorry. Like, it's not. And I think, we're talking about some of these rotations. I think, sure, maybe there should have been a shorter leash, but this early in a series, like, do you have any reason to believe that Norm isn't going to turn it around? Like, do you have the sample size of data to believe this guy shouldn't be on the floor despite what he's done, through 60 games of a regular season? Like, I just don't really buy that.
But you did just say Amir should have come in earlier.
I mean, I agree, but I'm saying I see both sides. Like, Ty Lue's an idiot for that. I'm saying my opinion is that Amir should have come in earlier. I don't think that means Ty Lue lost us the game.
He didn't tank the game.
You can't predict stuff like that, and you can't predict stuff like guys gambling for steals. You can't predict a whistle, and I think that he was probably. I think that he was right to take Zoo out at that point of the game too, because with the way the whistle was going at that time, like, what's the point in him even racking up one more? You're going to need him later. So I don't really see it that way. I personally don't see it that way. And the offense completely stagnating to end the game, and at various points while Kawhi was on the floor, I'm sorry, there was just a lot of other issues that are not Ty Lue related. It was a 3-point loss.
It was a game where there are things to second guess. I don't think there was anything so egregious where, like Will said, you could just say Ty Lue lost them
in the moment.
This game. I didn't like him taking out Ivica Zubac. I said it on the air at the time at the 7-minute mark and going small. That felt like a little bit of Ty resorting back to what he's most comfortable with, small ball. But they don't have Batum. They don't have Marcus Morris. It was, I think, a 7-0 run after Russell Westbrook came out of the ball game. Joey Lynn asked him about that post game, and Russ was having some great moments, momentum plays for them, got them extra possessions.
The board, they got the foul,
the block on Derek Lively, but
on the other end of the floor, it just wasn't looking that good.
Well, yeah, he was 2 of 9, but he did find Ivica Zubac, who got 2 early buckets in the fourth quarter, and I thought, here we go. They're going to try to execute what they weren't able to in the first quarter because he got into foul trouble. And Zoo, they're going to lean into running offense through him and getting easy buckets in a game where they can't hit any jump shots. And that's how they're going to win this game. And then after they go down 3 on that 7-0 run, he takes Ivica Zubac out, and they go small ball, and they lost the next 3 minutes by 4. So I understand the logic because they started hitting threes. You want more switchability out there. I just don't think it looked a little bit like he blinked a little bit, and Jason Kidd had the advantage. He forced Coach Lue to make a move because Maxi Kleber's been playing more. They were playing more small ball. They were clogging up the paint, trying to stop Ivica Zubac there. But I think he had 8 points because he came back in right after that, 3 minutes. He comes back in to me, that said, Coach Lou saw that it wasn't working. They needed Big Zubac in, and he got 2 more easy buckets when points were at a premium. Now, he could also make the argument that Zoo had played the entire third quarter and the first 4 minutes or whatever it was of the fourth quarter and hadn't gotten a break yet. But I would also say he only played 33 minutes total. So even if he had stayed in for those 3 minutes, he's at 36 minutes by the end of the game.
Right.
It's a playoff game. He ended with those 2 fouls also. So when Coach Lou talks about postgame that threw us off our game, well, I agree with that. It did. It led to them forgetting about Zoo once again. When it wasn't like he stayed in foul trouble. You could have gone back to that earlier. You could have started spamming it again. I know he's out in the first quarter because of that, but he didn't stay in foul trouble after that, and you couldn't find easy buckets. There's still Ivica Zubac out there after the game one he had, after what the season he's had, after what we've seen with him and James Harden. I felt like it was a real missed opportunity in that game. And the reason I'm down on it is because I think they win last night's game, and there's a very realistic possibility the Clippers could have won this series in 5 games. They split the 2 in Dallas. They come back and close it out in game 5 at home. Now it's completely different. It's a dogfight. It's going 6 or 7, and it feels more like a coin flip right now.
Yeah, Zoo did end with 8 in that fourth quarter, 4 for 6. And he was playing, like you said, I was impressed with how he played after the two fouls. He didn't play scared. He didn't play timid because he wasn't playing insane to get those 2 fouls, right? It was playoff basketball. They were hard fouls, but they weren't weird. It wasn't a moving screen or or something weird like that. Before we get into the low 5, my player of the game pick, Will, if we're eating our respective crow for player of the game picks, Paul George did shoot 50%. Which was great. He was 7 for 14, but 22 points.
Not an inspiring Paul performance. We've had 2 kind of like
points is not what we
2 kind of mad Paul performances, and I thought defensively he looked a lot better in game 1. So I kind of had more praise for him than I know Charles did in that first game. This one wasn't an inspired Paul George performance to me. He was good late, but it was a little too late.
Yeah.
Maybe we could treat one other quarter like it's the fourth quarter in the game. Just one.
I didn't like how, and when people point to Kawhi Leonard throwing off their rhythm, and I don't know how much rhythm and chemistry you can say was built up in one good performance where they really just got hot from 3 in game 1 and say, oh, Kawhi threw everything off now. But Paul George came out and had 8 points on 3 of 5 shooting in that first quarter. He was the only guy that really had it going. And he still only took 5 shots. And at the half, I think he was at 7. I think he only took 2 more in the second quarter. I thought he was being too unselfish. I thought overall the clunky offense from the Clippers, some of it was they were forcing things to Kawhi Leonard, especially in the fourth quarter. But when you look at the box score, I don't say this very often, but the shot distribution was too balanced. Instead of finding the guy who was hot in Paul George, who only ended up with 14 shots, so he only gets 9 more after the first quarter. You look at that, he's got 14. Kawhi's at 17. Zubac 12. James Harden at 14. Norm Powell at 10. Russell Westbrook at 9. That's a game where Paul George has it going. Yeah. Other guys don't. Feed the hot hand, ride it, let him get to 20-plus shots in that game. Because late in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden,
but I think he needs to call his shot more in those situations. Like I
agree.
Think like because we when he was mic'd up, we heard him mic'd up in game 1, and he was calling out a lot of stuff on the floor. Like he was being very decisive. He was being a leader, and I think that when Kawhi's there, he has to still be that guy. He has to be calling his own shot.
I agree. It's all on him too, not being more demanding of the basketball in those situations. But it's just in a game where it was difficult for everybody to score out there, and you have a guy who might have been on a heater but never really got to test it out. That also was a missed opportunity in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. We need alpha dog PG because that is what you need in the playoffs. That being said, defense is pretty good these last 2 games, right? Can't be too mad. Hold the Mavs under 100 points. Like that side of the ball, I'm very I don't know if satisfies are, but I'm feeling good about the defensive side of the
I mean,
ball
it's
for
got to be the
Clippers.
most impressive given where this Clippers team
Totally.
was all season, and certainly to end the season. You know, while we saw glimpses, it it's looked a lot better.
Yeah. All right.
They have proved that they obviously can be a top 10 defense whenever they feel like putting in that effort. To me,
when they flip that switch. We've alluded to it. I think we got it before we go to the next segment. Should we hit them with the low five? Hopefully, we're going to get a high five at some point.
The first two are high fives.
Okay.
The first two plays here.
Okay.
All right. This is your high five. 5 highlights, if you're not familiar with it, from the ball game in game 2 this time around. And the sound is off. We're going straight to the fourth quarter here.
Let's do it. No, as they were working on the theme song. Jimmy Williams, thank you for sending us that. We're trying to figure out how to seamlessly integrate that wonderful surf rock into the high five. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the bobblehead.
It would be nice underneath my nasally voice. Here's Luka Doncic at half court, straight to the consequential buckets here in the fourth quarter and plays that really decided this game. It's 71-67 Clippers, as at one point they were up by 6 in the fourth. And I felt like with how difficult both teams were having regarding scoring, 6 points might have been insurmountable, I felt like.
I was right there with you, man. Will and I were in
know?
the press box, and we were like, hey, 6 fucking points in a game where people are scoring 92.
Like, first team to go on a run would win, and that's kind of what happened with that 14-0 run by the Dallas Mavericks, really. So here's Luka Doncic. He gets the pick from Derek Lively. Yeah, sorry about that. Ivica Zubac was hedging the pick this time instead of staying in drop on Luka Doncic in this game. So a little bit more of a wrinkle there from Coach Lou. Here's Ivica Zubac, who I think he was trying to beat Luka to his spot, who loves pulling up on the left wing for his step back three-pointer. He's overly aggressive. Luka ends up splitting the defense here, gets the Clippers to collapse, and he finds the trailing Derek Lively. But watch Russell Westbrook. Boom! Hell of a play. That's what people were talking about when they mentioned Russ really changing the game for the Clippers, end of the third quarter into the start of the fourth. Here's another nice play from Russell Westbrook. This was after a Josh Green missed three-pointer. Rush pushes the ball in transition. Ivica Zubac beats his man down the floor in Derek Lively, so he's got to hang back. And here's Russ collapsing the defense on the other side. A little dribble drive, bounce pass to Big Zoo. Easy bucket against the smalls here in the Dallas Mavericks. And I can't say it enough. Feed the beast. Get the ball to Ivica Zubac, please, guys. Am I crazy? Am I losing my mind too much about that? Or is there something to it? Because I think especially in this series, Ivica Zubac has to be one of the focal points.
Easy buckets, and it's just like I don't get why even with 2 fouls, I don't get why you would completely move away from something that was so successful for you in game 1.
Yeah, they weren't offensive fouls, right? He wasn't like throwing his elbows or anything weird.
Yeah. So Russ gets taken out of the game at the 8:30 mark for Paul George. So he had played from the 7-minute mark of the third quarter up until the 8:30 mark of the fourth quarter. And Coach Lou told Joey Lynn post-game that's why he took him out. And Joey asked about it, and Coach Lou kind of challenged him, what would you do? I don't think he was in the mood for being second guessed on that one. It's Paul George. You could have taken out Norman Powell, but he had just hit a three-pointer, and you need him, you would think, at some point in this series to get it going. Coach Lou was probably thinking this is his time. He's starting to find a rhythm here. So PJ Washington and Luka Doncic hit threes. I'm not sure Russ would have stopped that, especially from the plays that we're about to see. I'm not sure if that would have been the difference, having Russ on the floor for that. But by the time he comes back, after this Luka Doncic step back on Kawhi Leonard, which is just an insane shot that there's nothing you can do about it, the Clippers are now down by 3 at the 7-minute mark. And this is where they end up going small here. And if I don't get this right again and mess up my timestamps, I'm going to be upset. So Russell Westbrook's back in the ball game. He's on Kyrie Irving. You got James Harden on Luka Doncic. The Clippers are small. Norman Powell, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Coach Luke can obviously say, we have Kawhi back. We're more equipped to play small now. Here's what I don't like about this play. James Harden actually guarded Luka pretty damn well in the fourth quarter, even on the kill shot 3 that Luka Doncic made and then taunted the crowd. That was great defense. James Harden gave him this multiple times, trying to get his hand in his face, trying to face guard him, be like a face hugger in Aliens. But even on this possession, he's got it in the far side corner. He's got his back to him. There's help here if he tries to drive. You're going to have at least Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. One of these guys is going to come over. Russell Westbrook is watching Kyrie Irving. But look at Luka Doncic watching Russ. Look how smart he is. As soon as Russ makes a little bit of a move over here to help, to cheat over and help on Luka Doncic when I don't think it was necessary at this time, Luka does this. Bounce pass to Kyrie. Russ is way out of position. He has a wide open three-pointer. Russell Westbrook to me in this situation, and I don't know what the game plan assignment was, but it's Kyrie Irving. It's not Tim Hardaway Jr. out there. It's not Maxi Kleber.
I don't think it was wide open. Kyrie 3 was the option on the floor.
Play off Kyrie, one pass away. Yeah.
It's just James Harden is doing a good enough job here. If Luka Doncic wants to back him down and take a tough fadeaway too, I can live with that more so than them knocking down a 3 in this situation from a guy like Kyrie Irving who's wide open here. It's a long 3, but he's going to make that all day, right, guys?
And he's wide open, as you mentioned. Like, he's unbothered.
I don't want to put it all on Russ. I don't know if that was the game plan to double there, but it just seems to me, watch what happens afterwards. James Harden starts talking to Coach Lue, and then Russell Westbrook, it looks like, says something to James Harden here.
But it's like, dude, like, it's so clearly like Russell's. We saw, and Will, you kind of talked about this a little bit like a second ago, but there was a lot of, it felt like more gambling for steals in game 2 than in game 1. It felt like
we got something on that. Apropos, Big Chuck.
Hey, I was.
So, one last play here in the high 5. I swear to God, if I don't get this right. This is, and I don't hate this. When you talk about Paul George on Luka Doncic, by the way, that guy in the comments that kept saying that Paul George wasn't guarding Luka Doncic, I think there was like 10 possessions, at least in this game, where he was one-on-one against him, so whatever. But when you talk about bad breaks and bad bounces, this exemplifies that. In a game this close, in a playoff game, watch what happens here. Great defense by Paul George. He gets at the basketball, taps it away. It ends up, instead of coming this way, where Paul George can grab it and go the other way for 2, it hits Luka right on the calf, the ankle, the cankle, whatever you want to say, and it bounces right back to him. It was the perfect bounce for Luka Doncic to get the ball back off a really fine defensive play by Paul George here. And then he gets it, collapses the defense, makes it look like he's going for a jumper, finds Maxi Kleber for a huge 3-pointer. The other thing that really worried me coming out of this game was some of their role players really woke up from the outside late, and they're going to have confidence to build off of going into game 3 with that.
Yeah, and shoot better at home.
Very good point. And PJ Washington was phenomenal in the fourth quarter for the Mavs. He was very good. We love the high 5. Adam's going to leave and then come back real quick. We got an audio break coming up for the listeners, and then more. We're going to be talking the keys to the game 3 victory coming up right after this. And we're back. Welcome to Clips and Dip.
Welcome
Adam,
back into Clips and Dip.
We made it. Adam went and ran a quick 10 miles. So what are we thinking for game 3? We can talk about the Mavs role players because Kleber, who you just showed making a 3, which you do live with him taking that 3, was good for the Mavs last game. Of the 5 Mavs lineups that have totaled more than 4 minutes, only 3 are in the plus, and they all include Maxi Kleber. I think a large part of that was that 14-0 run, obviously, that they went on. But Kleba is showing his value for the Mavs. And I don't know if that makes Ty Lue, like Adam, you said, go small where he's comfortable, or stick with the big bigs that we're doing.
I was worried about this after game one. At the very end of game one, we saw Maxi Kleba playing the 5, and we thought that could be a wrinkle that Jason Kidd goes with moving forward. I think they're plus 24 so far in the series when Gafford and Lively are off the floor, which means Kleba's out there.
And Gafford had a back thing, right? Like he left
Got
and
hurt
was
again.
questionable to come back again. Like they're running him through like the ringer over there.
Unfortunate for the Clippers.
Honestly, yes. Will, how are you feeling about the small ball? Does Tice get a crack? Where are we at? It seems like we're going to see more of it in game 3.
I don't know. I mean, like with Kawhi Leonard back, do you think the rotation like realistically expands? Was Mace bad enough in game 2 to take him out of the lineup, especially when you seemingly, I mean, you seemingly like the size. I'm assuming from Ty Lue, you see that as an advantage, unless you're going real small, real weird with things, which I don't know that Tice fortifies. I don't know that Tice fortifies one of those lineups more than just having another like swingy kind of, guard wing tweener, like an Amir Coffey or something out there. So I would probably, I like what Adam said, like sort of just shortening the leash, shortening the rotations a little bit. Like if things aren't working, you don't have room to play around anymore. And I think that players will understand that. I think everybody kind of gets that. But I don't really see, and I could be wrong on this. I don't see like full giving up on Mace necessarily in this series. I'm not saying that'll hold up should they advance past this round, but I don't full see giving up on Mace on the strength of one game in a limited sample size. And I also don't really see the rotation expanding. So I think that means Tice is still likely one of the odd men out in this one.
Him and Tuckwagon hanging out, flipping bottles on the bench. I think that point about expanding the rotation is a really good one. Like it's like we
added Kawhi back into the lineup. Like I would
Yeah.
think, if anything, one more guy would be out of the rotation.
Yes, I agree with that. I hope
it was Amir in game 2.
That's true. Yeah, what did he do? 11 minutes?
And he's been really good defensively. I know everybody pretty much has for the most part, but his defense, even going back to the regular season, I think he had the best matchup data against Luka Doncic.
And Ty Lue credited him for being able to guard Kyrie and stuff like that. So Kawhi, well, he said, because it was in game 1, so Kawhi wasn't there. But he's like, yeah, Paul George doesn't have to worry about Luka and Kyrie when Amir Coffey's out there. And it's like, wouldn't it be great to maybe put Amir Coffey out there with PG and Kawhi? So now, like, 2 guys at once don't have to worry about him like that. Maybe some of those Norm minutes go to Amir.
Speaking of matchup data, I think we got to bring up how the Clippers went 2 for 17 against Luka Doncic in game 2. And Luka and Kyrie were very good defensively. We talked about it and showed it in a high-five preview of this series. Luka Doncic fighting through a stagger screen, multiple screens to stay with his man and Michael Porter Jr. Guys, he was very connected. He shut down Kawhi Leonard on a big possession in the 4th quarter. Granted, Kawhi's not Kawhi yet, but he had 4 or 5 possessions in that game where he played quote-unquote lockdown defense. It was impressive.
Yeah, they've both been good defensively.
Yeah.
Kyrie was playing Harden and flustering him. Small Kyrie. He was hounding him going up the court. Like, that narrative was just false. Like, oh, these guys are food. You can do whatever you want against them. This is what scared me about Dallas. Those guys giving a much better effort defensively kind of changes everything.
And they're showing it too, right? Like they actually are doing it we heard Mavs fans before the series talking about that, but now they actually are doing it. Do we think some of that late especially was the legs of the Clippers? Because they look like that possession where Norm was it like Norm and Russ missed, like they got the offensive rebound and then they missed like 2 putbacks at the rim. I think it was during that drought. And it was just like, it was like the epitome of what tired guys playing basketball looks like not being able to hit shots at the rim. Just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I'm happy they have the 2 days off. I will tell you that much, because this is an old team. We talked about how much the week off was going to help them. Like this 2 days off is really going to help them too, because they looked gassed a little earlier in game 2 than they did in game 1, I thought
it was most noticeable probably with James Harden and the lack of blow-bys compared to how many he had in game 1, where he was really going around Luka Doncic and looking for him and making him defend, but he didn't have the same pop to get Luka on his heels in game 2, who also stepped up to the plate, to the challenge, because the physicality that Jason Kidd was asking for, it was borne out with their superstars too. Like they brought it. And when those guys are playing that hard, everybody else is definitely going to play hard defensively for the Dallas Mavericks. So I worry about James Harden wearing down, but 2 days off. I think we brought it up before how much better he has looked. I think Will's talked about it in situations where he's off for a couple of days.
Yeah, and I mean, how many minutes did he play in? He played 39 in game 1 and then 42 yesterday. It's a lot of minutes. It's like the most minutes he's played in the last like 6 or 7 years or something like that, just total minutes wise.
Not in the playoffs.
No, I just meant total, like from like regular season, everything. Just a lot of wear. What does that even mean?
What murder?
What murder?
Are you guys good with Mason Plumlee continuing to play after
up and down? What game 1? I was pleasantly plumbed. Game 2, negatively plumbed.
He did have one possession where he locked up Luka and made him pick up his dribble and have to pass it, but outside of that, it was not good.
Right.
His effort was great, but it's not happening. He's not skilled enough in that area defensively.
Or offensively. He dribbled the ball a couple of times, 2 extra too, which I was like, pass the ball. What youth coach?
He wasn't finishing. I mean, to me, that was the biggest thing. He wasn't finishing. He was 1 of 4. And it looks a lot different to me if he's even able to slam home 1 more of those.
I think he was 0 for 3.
Oh, was he 0 for 3?
Yeah, I think he was 0 for 3. And
I give him credit for 1, and 1 extra field goal, which was just in my mind.
I think Tice is going to get run. I think Tice is going to get run in this series.
Do you think it's game 3 or I think
yeah.
I think maybe Ty waits to see what happens in game 3, because we did.
I think it depends on. I think it depends on how early does your game plan with Zoo get rocked. Because if it's another situation where if it's 3 minutes into the first quarter, maybe it is Tice time. Maybe you do go small. Small. I still think of Tice at the 5 as kind of going small.
He's 6'9". Yeah, that makes total sense.
I'm just so irked, and I know how you meant it, Will, but going back to what we talked earlier, your game plan getting rocked and upended. Okay, Zoo has 2 fouls. He's out in the first quarter. That shouldn't change every other quarter. It's not like you can't go right back to that when he's back in the ball game. They just forgot. They forget about Zoo. That's so frustrating to me. I don't know. It's just
I'm chalking it up to, and this is what I was saying earlier. I'm chalking it up to like a concern of like how the game was being called, because it's like I feel like and it's not just this game. I'm not just complaining about the refs, but like things are so wishy-washy, and like when stuff is getting called and when it's not, that I think sometimes your instinct is to be like, oh, I mean, because even Jason Kidd talked about this. He's like, within the first couple of minutes of a game, you realize that night how the officiating is going to go. And it, the thing is that it doesn't stay that way for a full game. But I think I understand it from Ty's perspective, seeing that early and being like, okay, well, this just isn't worth the gamble. Like he picks up 1 more, and that's, DEFCON 0.
I almost wonder if the extreme physicality we're seeing is the referees almost retaliating against the NBA, who has told them one thing before, which is we want more scoring. We want things called tighter. And now all of a sudden flipping things around mid-season of calling things more loosely. And officials might be like, cool, man. We're just not going to call anything now. We're not going to call that foul on a review on D'Angelo Russell, even though he got hit in the head.
That was
We're not going to
crazy.
call the Kyrie Irving foul on his wrist at the end of that game.
The take foul on
night.
Russ that should have been a take foul from Luka when Luka just held his arm out and stopped Russ. Another take foul that somehow like Russ doesn't get take fouls.
They let so much go. It felt like a different brand of basketball. Like there was nothing. It was so foreign to me what I was watching. And I don't know how it translated on TV, but I had never seen a game that physical live before. And I've been to a lot of games over the years, luckily.
I mean, yeah, we were in the press box. It was crazy. How do they get Kawhi going? He's the Clippers' best player. We've said it multiple times. They go as far as Kawhi can take them. Is it just more of the same? Like that we saw in game 2? Hey, I'm not mad at that. The Kawhi and Terrence pick and roll could be fun. I don't think did they run a pick and roll with Terrence as the screener in game 2? They did it in game 1 and it worked really well. But I don't know if they did it at all in game 2.
The pick and roll we saw late in the fourth quarter was James Harden getting PJ Washington off of Kawhi so he could get Luka onto Kawhi, which did not work. Luka held up. He's got to get his midi going. I think he sees one mid-range shot go, and it's going to come quickly. As long as he's somewhat close to, it doesn't have to be 100%, but if he's feeling good enough. And post-game, he said he did feel good, and he played 35 minutes. So some of this was
I feel like that's
a
double-edged sword, though, because I think the paint penetration was poorer in this one, which is why the offense looked so bad.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and just the amount of threes missed. You go from game 1 having unsustainably hot shooting to hopefully having unsustainably poor shooting in game 2. Are we going to get something in the middle now? But this wonky stuff does happen sometimes in the playoffs, especially with Dallas. We've seen it. Just shooting outlier nights. But you got to expect it. They shot their worst field goal percentage of the season, the Clippers, in that game. 36.8%.
Damn.
So
and
that
the Mavs
was
had to have had one of their worst quarters in franchise history, like not just playoffs history.
The 8 points in game 1, in second quarter.
The 2 threes that the Clippers made in the first half of that game were the fewest all season, except for the very last game against the Rockets in the regular season, which was 2. So that was all. That was
when nobody played.
Yeah, right.
I think the physicality, though, took them out of it a little bit. It was so physical. It takes something out of your legs. Yeah. Dallas was struggling the same way from 3 until the fourth quarter. They got a few to go. Luka had 2. PJ Washington had 2. Kyrie had 1. Kleba had 1. And that was the difference. 6 of 9 from 3 in the fourth.
PJ Washington getting more confidence and getting hot does not excite me. He's their third best player.
Don't expect a slow Dallas shooting night on Friday.
Yeah, that's a great call. And the if we thought the Dallas start was crazy in game 2, coming back after taking the momentum and getting home court, yada yada yada, that place is going to be insane.
I mean, I was saying that I feel pretty good about this, but Friday is kind of
DEFCON 1. DEFCON 1.
It is kind of a must win.
Adam's dragging all of us into the situation room. He's JFK. So I do think, to the Norm point, maybe the 6th man of the year snub gets him fired up. What do you get? 4th, 5th? That came out today.
Well, he was upset before the award became official, just finding out he wasn't top 3.
But now it's official, Adam. It's like when you're like, maybe I failed that test. I don't know. And then you get the test back and you got a 54 and you're like, oh, now I'm really upset. Maybe it's that kind of thing.
Norm's getting upset.
Norm's getting upset.
Is George getting upset? I'm going to say this. He should have been top 3 over Bobby Portis. I'm fine with Malik Monk. I'm definitely fine with Nas Reed.
Did Monk even play enough games, though?
He was at the end of the season. He missed the last month.
Or does it not matter for 6 man? I can't remember because some awards it doesn't matter for.
Well, and like a game played has to be 20 minutes. Like Donnie Pizza for the Knicks, he played in 80 games or something like that. But because he didn't play over 20 minutes, it counted as like 50.
He got 72 games in Malik Monk, so
Okay.
he was good. But Bobby Portis on a team that has been wildly up and down and below 500 with Doc Rivers. And I like Bobby Portis a lot, but Norman Powell had a better year than him. However, all that has to be pushed aside. He cannot be worried about that. And at the very end of what I saw in the column from Ohm, or at least the excerpt, Norman Powell said, the real goal is winning a championship.
The headline. You mean from the headline that you read?
Yeah, it's kind of
reads
went
the
from
headline.
article down to excerpt.
I read a headline.
I saw
earlier.
the abbreviated headline on Twitter. It cuts off after 75 characters.
No, I just read a headline earlier. It said C&D season 2 episode 71, and I just stopped right there.
I just thought, hey, I know that's how it goes.
I'm kidding.
Perfect.
And the thing with Norm that's interesting too, he's taken 16 shots over these 2 games. So his shot attempts are going to go down from the regular season, obviously, which makes the efficiency that much more important. Like, that's what we all loved.
Mavs have been doing a good job though of keeping somebody on him. He's not getting the same looks. And when we see the offense stagnate, like we saw, like they were really slow. They waited a lot of time into the shot clock. A lot of guys parked out on the perimeter, not a lot of movements. You can't get Norm open. It's not as easy as like just get the ball to Norm if everybody's just fucking standing around. Like it doesn't work that way.
That's
and
an
when we
interesting
saw
point.
Norm have success, it was off emotion.
Running around.
Yeah. In game 1, there was a concerted effort to stop Norman Powell. That had to be high on their game plan assignment. And I did not expect that to happen. And it continued in game 2. They must have seen him as an X factor coming into this series. And they're right. And Chuck's off.
Yeah. Jason Kidd got that right. Turned the hat forward. He figured it out. I don't know. I'm not letting that die, by the way. The Mavs are lucky I do not cover the team because all I would do would be talk shit about how Jason Kidd presents himself. Who's our player of the game?
Meanwhile, we're fashionistas over here.
Hey, I'm wearing a Hoagie Bowl shirt.
I got a tank top and a sweatshirt, Rocky style, coming back from work.
We're well dressed at the games. What do you mean? We're not wearing backwards hat and jerk off pants and clear sunglasses like that coach.
This is work from home, Adam. Come on.
Yeah. So, all right. Any other major keys we can think of before we pick our possibly cursed picks for X Factor Kawhi Leonard player of the game?
Who did I have last time? Because you guys gave out yours.
Who did Adam have?
I'm sure it was off too.
I think it was PJ Tucker.
Damn. Actually, I'll take that.
Dude.
Oh, 0 for 0. You could live with that from PJ.
Was it Amir?
It might have been Amir.
I thought I wrote these down.
I thought
Amir was a
You
plus
did
out
pick
there.
Amir.
Amir was a plus.
You picked Amir, Adam.
In 10 minutes. Yeah. All right. So you're going with Big Zoo, Will?
Yeah.
Shit.
We need it.
We do need it. I'm gonna go in front of Adam, and I'm gonna go with a guy who Will picked last time that is even more of an X factor because they're gaming him out. Norm Powell. Let's get that 20 ball, bud. Let's use that rage from officially not being named 6th man of the year. Run around. Yes, the Mavs defense has been great on Norm. I'm not pretending like he's just like shitting the bed out of nowhere. But if Norm gets 20 points, that means the offense probably looks pretty good too. It means the offense is flowing and the ball is moving.
Just side note, who do you guys think is going to be the first Clipper to pass the 30 ball mark?
Oof, that hurts my heart.
I hate that.
DEFCON 0.
We're not. We're doing the fun check after this segment. First Clipper to pass the 30 ball mark.
Kawhi.
I'm going PG.
Love that. Hope you're right.
I think the rust is what is making me pick PG over Kawhi. Because I'll tell you what, a 30 ball from PG on Friday I would love that.
Somebody is going to have to get one. As Will
They
said,
have
Dallas
to.
is going to shoot much better. Remember how we came into this series talking about how, who's going to get the most stops? Who's going to score the most points is how game 2 went. Who's going to get to 90 first is how game 2 went. Jeez.
All right, so Adam, who is your pick for Kawhi Leonard honorary X Factor player of the game difference maker? Clippers,
Number
Mavs. Number one championship playoff.
Calling my shot, boys. I'm going off the beaten path. Daniel Tice.
Big Plum.
Really? Both of those are wild. You're really going Daniel Tice. What does the Daniel Tice X Factor game even look like? And I mean that respectfully. Like, tell us.
It's not a big
3 threes.
It's not a traditional box score number that you're worried about. But I'm looking at him going +8 out there in his minutes. That's what I'm saying.
Taking it to the
He's
plus minus.
impactful in the little ways that you need to win.
Who do you see around him? What's the best 5-man
what's
lineup
this
with
lineup?
Daniel Tice?
Power Rangers with Tice instead of Zoo.
I'm going to say it's Daniel Tice next to Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Terrence Mann, and Amir Coffey.
Love it.
Okay, I'm into that.
You heard it here first.
Mark it down. What bookie's going to give me a
don't.
line on the plus minus for Daniel Tice? Your bookie would tell you
If they
to
go
help.
+8, do we call it the Teen Tysons?
Yes, we 100% do. Someone write that down. I'll write that down right now. Tice lineup +8 equals Team Tice. All right, coming up after this quick break, we're doing an Updyke Fun Check, which has gotten less fun, I think, as we've done this episode. But we're doing the Updyke Fun Check. If the ad's been loud for you, go ahead and turn it down. We got ads coming up, and then the Updyke Fun Check in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, it's episode 71 of Clips and Dip here in season 2. Just read that a little bit earlier. I'm Adam Oslin. We got Chuck Mockler and Will Updyke. If you missed it earlier, we talked about some of the good, the bad. We had some lowlights, some highlights in the high five for you. But now, let's see how far I have taken Will Updyke into the muck and the mire. After he started off all positive, sunshine, rainbows, lollipops, unicorns, all that stuff. Very optimistic and sanguine at the beginning of this podcast till I went super dark and negative like Gamork into the never-ending story. Will, I don't know how to do this, so I just ask him, what's the fun level at?
Yeah, what's the Updyke Fun Check?
Fun level is Deist. It's Deist right now. It's like I'm at a convention. It's a work convention. On the plus side, I've used my 2 drink tickets, but the bartender said, "No problem, I got you." Downside, my boss is still there. He's approaching me right now via a conversation. Maybe it opens with, "Hey, I thought we only got 2 drink tickets." But I think he's leaving. I think he's on his way out, and it's about to be a lot of fun. It's about to get weird. So I'm decent right now. I'm cautiously, a little more than cautious, I'm a little more optimistic than cautious. But I'm having fun. I mean, this has been kind of what we expected of a series so far, right? Maybe not the way that it's necessarily gone down, but we thought this would be kind of a tight back and forth thing. I think the Clippers defensively have really impressed me. Neither team has really had that breakout sort of offensive game yet. So there might be one for either team where one team sort of gets run out of the gym. But it's decent. It's decently fun. There's still sort of a sort of
Party
some
vibe in the air.
some looming unparty vibes. But how are you guys doing? How much fun are you having?
Well, I'm going to take this real quick, Adam, if you don't mind, because I think we know how you're doing.
I don't get drink tickets anymore, so you go ahead.
Adam's throwing. He says, "You want these drink tickets?" Just throwing them in the garbage. I'm feeling. Damn, I got to think of an environment I'm in right now. I like the line you had of more optimistic than cautious. I think I'm at that same point. I'm a little cautious about what Russ usages looks like when things start going poorly for the Clippers. if Ty Lue just decides to go back to that, I feel a little less optimistic. No disrespect to Russ on the whole. He was great in the second half for some energy plays, but there's also some stuff, as we saw with the defensive lapses off ball, that you don't really like to see. So I think how I feel is like we're on a hike and it's with someone, it's like with a group of people, some people I don't really know. Better than the opposite, I guess. I'm on a hike with a group of people I don't know, and one guy has he's like, hey, how's it going? Like, it's a pretty light hike, we're gonna be good, but he has a huge like climbing rope with him, and it's like, whoa, like, what kind of hike is this? And he's like, oh, there's gonna be some light bouldering, and I'm like, okay, well, like I think I'm okay with that, but some of the people here don't seem super prepared for that, and that's kind of how I feel. There's some uneasiness in the group, but overall, I think it's gonna be a good time. At the end of the hike, we all die, is how the story ends. No.
Yeah, friends we made along the way, though.
Yeah, so that's how I feel. A hike you think is going to be chill, but a little more intense than maybe you wanted, but you're still equipped for it.
Could be fun and could turn into, a Donner Party.
Yeah, maybe I got to cut my arm off with a penknife or something.
Maybe I'll piggyback on that and say I was on the hike, and it was pretty cool for the most part, but sleeping wise, I had trouble that night because I forgot like my 2-inch padded.
Oh, Pat.
I don't know, keep my
Or
back in line.
Yeah.
Like, the foam padding, it makes all the difference in the world. So it could have been better. I could have had a more restful night of sleep, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Just a little bit of tossing and turning for my 6.5 hours. That's where I'm at right now. Also concerned about the Russ minutes a little bit here, because I didn't show another low light, which was him gambling on Luka Doncic going for a steal, to where then Luka just blew by him, collapsed the Clippers defense, and kicked it out to PJ Washington for a 3-pointer. So as good, it's the roller coaster. It is what it is. It's always like that with Russ, but I just want to see the Clippers. They got to get their offense unglued in a hurry in game one, because as we talked about that environment, in game three, like they had in game one, I guess, from the outside, but in game three in Dallas, in that environment, we've seen it before. They were down 30-11 to start that game three, down 19 before they came back and turned the entire series around, down 2-0. But I do not want to see that again. I don't want to rely on them being able to come back down 19 in the first quarter. I want to see them start fast and get into more of a real flow and rhythm and play with purpose and intentionality out there, because I didn't know what was going to happen from possession to possession offensively at all with this Clippers team in game two.
Yeah, no rhythm.
Bad process.
Bad process. You want to see good process? Okay, am I crazy though? I think Will was right. There must have been something said to go for more steals. They were going for so many more steals in game two, I thought, than in game one.
Yeah. They gambled far too much. God, how many times? There were guys like on a freaking slip and slide. It was like the ice
fell.
The ball was pinballing all over the place. They had possession. They lost possession. It was so wild. It felt like a rugby scrum or something out there at times in that basketball game.
Especially when you're not trailing big, like it makes a little bit more sense maybe at the end, but like, dude, defend through the shot clock. Like, make them take the time off the clock. Like, make them work, and then finish out the defensive possession. You don't got to rip this thing away, in a couple of seconds. That's not really any better.
Yeah, it felt like they were trying to make
and take an end to end. Obviously,
it's like they were looking for a highlight defensive play that was going to score them 6 points. That was going to flip the game that fast back in their favor.
PG's got to get that highlight reel ready for the Philly hype up video.
Oh no! Oh no!
Wants them to leave their batteries at home.
Yeah, keep the batteries out of the socks, folks. All right, I think that about wraps it up. Adam, has the Ballmer bobblehead been sent off to our lucky winner?
Yeah, I texted you that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Well,
Fantastic.
he wants to make sure the
I think you said hell yeah.
Great. Well, now the
It
listener
has
knows it's
been.
sent out.
I got it out the very next day. This time I
Hell
was on
yeah.
it.
We're always on. You're always on. I think every single thing has been delivered or sent out the next day.
Yeah.
Don't quote us.
Everything has been delivered, and you know what? That's more than some small businesses can say.
That's very true. Do you have a grievance right now with a small business you need to air on the pod?
No, I'm not going to do that. I love small businesses. Just sometimes they don't have their shit together.
That's fair. We're gonna have a post-game live on Friday and on Sunday for y'all. It's someone's birthday celebration this weekend. So we will be taking Saturday off. I will not be in town, unfortunately. I feel terrible about it. Will, where can these people watch more of us, listen to more of us, or maybe even let us know what they think about us for this podcast?
Yeah, if you want to let us know what you think about us, you can do that over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave a little rating or review over there. You can listen to us on either one of those platforms. Also, wherever you get your podcast, be it Amazon Music, Stitcher, Deezer. I don't really care, but you can listen to us there. But if you want to let us know how we're doing on an episode to episode, maybe even minute per minute basis, you can do that over on youtube.com/@Clippers Podcast. It's the best way to enjoy this show. We have fun over here. We have a good time. So yeah, but however you watch or listen, thank you so much for checking us out. We appreciate you.
We absolutely do. And Adam, to pull you out of the depths, before we head out, we do this every episode for the most part. Give us one quick positive thing to Clippers fans to hold on to for these next 2 days.
Maybe I was getting a little bit too greedy, a little bit too demanding, because if you came into the series and said they were going to get the split at home and Kawhi was only going to play in one game, I would have said, great. I probably would have thought the game they won was the one with Kawhi Leonard, but it's understandable that he was going to be rusty out there. But there's nothing more important than just having Kawhi Leonard back. It's not just about this series. It's about having a chance to still win a championship. And he said he started feeling good the last couple of days right beforehand. So I'm hoping that means he broke through and the inflammation has subsided. We'll keep checking the updates, but I expect Kawhi Leonard to get into a groove pretty quickly here, honestly. I don't think it's going to take him long to find his flow again, because there were definitely flashes, especially in that second half, with some of those energy, crazy playoff Kawhi-like type of plays. He had 4 steals in the ball game. Like, he was really good on the defensive end. He gets a couple of jumpers to go. It's not going to take long here. So they need him, especially in Game 3. Please be okay, Kawhi.
We'll have the updates on the injury report for you. If anything crazy happens on the injury report, we'll make sure to go live for it. But thank you for hanging out. Hope everyone has a great 2 days before the next Clippers game. And as always, let's go Clips.